It is a dumb name, unless it's followed by Galactica.
That saves it. I see.
I'm Battlestar. What? Hail, Internet! It's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Season 1, Episode 2, Spangled Man. We open on John Walker, the new Captain America. He's revisiting his old high school. He meets up with his high school sweetheart. They probably still have a relationship, hard to tell, but I think so. We meet his friend slash sidekick, Lamar Hoskins. And he does a TV interview on the football field. We end with Sam and Bucky deciding to go visit Zemo, and we cut to Zemo in prison. I wasn't sure whether he was still in prison post-blip. He is. And that's complete with the supervillain tropes of he's listening to Mozart's Requiem and he's playing chess versus the only competitor that's worthy, himself. So, anyway, so that's our beginning and end. Paul, before I ask you your opinion, I should say this: biggest takeaway, huge news, game changer, Gandalf, part of the MCU. Boom!
Yeah, that might actually end my association
because everything's Lord of the Rings.
Okay, I have to go to the next franchise. What are they doing down in Fraggle Rock? It's like.
Oh, so you're talking about Lord of the Rings. Oh, yeah, Fraggle Rock. That's all about elves. Okay. And notice how Sam doesn't ask about the Hobbit. He's like, what do you know about Gandalf? I think that suggests Gandalf's a real person. He's in the MCU. He's going to take over for Doctor Strange.
I see. And The Hobbit was a history book.
Correct. We see that Bucky is a suitable nerd. He plays the nerd trump card.
He passes the smell test?
He does. He's like, oh yeah, I read the 1937 first edition Hobbit. Bang! But if he still got that, by the way, that'd be that's a way to save the shrimp boat. But notice they didn't say Lord of the Rings, which is also obviously where Gandalf shows up, because when the Lord of the Rings came out in the 50s, Bucky was no longer Bucky. Bucky was Winter Soldier. He didn't have time to be a nerd because he's too busy, killing folks for the Russians. But anyway, okay. So, all right. What did you think of the episode, good sir? Other than all the awesome Lord of the Rings tie-ins.
Besides that one terrible bad part. I quite enjoyed it.
Cool.
Especially since we finally got Isaiah Bradley.
Right.
Elijah Bradley as well.
You called it last week.
Well, I'd heard.
You'd heard. And there was the end credit.
Yeah.
You saw Carl Lumley in it. But, I thought perhaps it was a thing that might show up later in these 6 episodes. But no, it showed up right away.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned it when you did in the last recap, because it preceded this as opposed to talking about it afterwards. So, yep. As you said, we got to meet Isaiah Bradley. We got to meet Eli Bradley. And yeah, that's a huge development. That's probably the biggest development we get out of this in terms of like earth-shattering MCU news. Is like, oh yeah, they did a program. They tried to recreate Steve Rogers and kind of did some terrible things in the process. Like, whoa.
Now, I began to read the comics that it was based on. In order to answer a question, actually, but many people believe that it preceded Steve Rogers, actually, and that was like a test bed for it.
Oh, okay.
Some people believe, in terms of readers, believe that. I don't know if that's actually in
now in this
books.
case, right? In this case, in the MCU, seems like he says he was fighting in the Korean War. It feels like it was maybe after Steve disappeared, after. That professor died, and so they were trying to
it's far clearer, right? Because
gotcha.
They're saying that he's a different, he's fought in a different war, so he's probably a different age than, probably younger, not quite 100, maybe.
Right. Maybe.
Maybe 90.
Up,
maybe 90. Yeah. Josiah Bradley. Wait, what? I'm making up names. Isaiah Bradley.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I had to look this up, but that is interesting. I'm like, where's the? So we've got Isaiah, grandson Eli. Who's the son? And the son is Josiah. who
Is that
I
right?
think, yeah, Josiah
okay.
X is what he goes by.
Oh, quite interesting.
But he was, yeah, I think we can maybe guess that, we know that Isaiah Bradley was put in jail for 30 years. He says they ran tests on me. They came into my cell, took my blood.
Yeah.
In the comics, what they did is they basically took his DNA and they tried to make his kid super soldier. So Josiah became super soldier, and then he got smuggled out and whatever. But so that's perhaps Josiah is a character that we will eventually meet. It's a pretty big like hole in the story. Otherwise, like wait. But yeah. So this is
Joe just comes out, with like some groceries. And you're like,
yeah. Okay. Hey, you guys staying for dinner? Cool. He fought against Winter Soldier. That's how they know each other. And he took a part of Bucky's arm. Maybe he still got it, like hanging on the wall or something. But then he got imprisoned for 30 years, during which time he was being tested on, apparently also by Hydra. I guess S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra were still the same thing at that point, so maybe he knew they were secretly Hydra agents.
Yeah, I got the impression. It did make it sound like he was, at least my original interpretation was that he was imprisoned in the U.S., but I wonder if it wasn't actually in Russia where he was imprisoned.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Maybe he was caught over.
Because certainly it could be possible that he did something to run afoul of the law here in the U.S. That's perhaps maybe a more important thing. But then, then tested on. Who knows?
Right. Well, and in the comics, it suggests that he was the guy that survived, but they actually ran these tests kind of involuntarily, kind of the Tuskegee experiments, basically, in comic book form.
Well, yeah. Well, in the comic books, they actually were a whole platoon or whatever. There were quite a number of men that were experimented on. He was one of the few that survived and had powers. It might have more saliency to say, okay, the scientist that was involved in the making of it had moral failing to think that, okay, that's cool to do.
Eli, as you mentioned last week, is in the comics is Patriot, a member of the Young Avengers. So we've been introduced to a guy that we could see join, say, the Young Avengers, if that's a thing, later on.
And it certainly seems like there are a lot of, it's like, if they're not, then we have
sure are.
Cassie and Ms. Marvel, and
they're planting all the seeds, and they're like, no, we're not
America Chavez.
Just plow it over. One thing I appreciated a lot was we meet John Walker, Texas Ranger. No, that's not the only accolade he doesn't have is he's not Chuck Norris. He comes off as this talented, experienced soldier who seems to genuinely care about the Captain America legacy. He doesn't. We'll take him at his word. He apparently does not have the super soldier serum in him.
There are people who believe that the power brokers might be involved in giving him those powers.
Yeah, I think that's the way this is going to go. Okay. I do approve of that guess, but I like this depiction that he's not a mustache twirling villain, right? He's not like, they were wrong, and now I'll corrupt society with... No, he's not that guy.
No, he's not.
We could just dismiss him and then just wait for him to be defeated. But now we get a chance to see how does he fall, because I think that's inevitably what's going to happen.
I think you're right.
And so I think, as you just mentioned, I think he's going to be corrupted by the possibility of getting the serum, right? He wants to... He even says, like, here, look, I'm not Steve Rogers. I don't have all the gadgets of Tony Stark, and I'm not Bruce Banner. I think having the opportunity, like, look, if you had the serum, you'd be a lot more like Captain America. You wouldn't let people down. I think that the pressure to be Captain America and the idea of, like, here's a shortcut for it, I think would maybe let him work. He'll work for some bad folks, a la the power broker, whoever that is. Perhaps that could be the way this is heading. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we go as far as that. Him working for the power broker, it might just merely be like, oh, here's the stack of super soldier serum.
Sure. Yeah, but
he just steals it. He has an opportunity to steal it. I mean, I think that's what's going on with the Flag Smashers. and the power broker. I think this power broker that's mad at them for taking the vaccine, which I think is really the serum. And so they're trying to, so it's like, hey, you took the vaccine, the serum, and you shouldn't have done that, and I'm going to get you for it. You stole from me.
So I'm going to kill you.
So I think perhaps it's a situation where it's like, I see it, and I'm going to take it. I mean, it's possible but that's, I guess we haven't really seen the power broker involved in the kind of mayhem that the Flag Smashers have been. I certainly don't think that Zemo is going to be partnered with the power broker.
Right, because that goes against his code. He doesn't want superheroes to exist.
Right, exactly, yeah. So I feel like, I mean, certainly you could, it seems like where they might be going, although it seems like he breaks out eventually, where it's like, we got to talk to Zemo, where he's almost like Hannibal Lecter.
Sure.
But I'd mentioned to you earlier, though, that maybe it's a 48 hours kind of thing, where it's like,
right.
You got to break me out or I won't help you.
Yeah, are they going to...
Well, actually, I shouldn't say break him out, because certainly in the comic, I mean, in 48 hours, he just gets a pass.
He just gets a pass.
Which, is that what they do with prisoners?
Yeah. And I mean, you're right. Like, either one of those sounds like it, in this universe, the way we've got it set, doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right that Sam and Bucky would literally break Zemo out of prison. That doesn't sound, I mean, I'm like, really?
Right.
And it also doesn't sound right that the government would be like, oh, you need Zemo for a thing? Let's let him out. That's fine. Here, just sign here. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm like, how does this work? I don't know how they're going to end up
be
walking
back by
around.
9.
Yeah, right.
And probably something that happens that causes him to be able to escape.
Yeah. So, but your interpretation that the vaccines are actually super serum, that's an interesting one. I actually had a different idea. I like yours better, I think, but here I'll tell you what my initial thought was. We know that the Flag Smashers, I guess their leader is Carly, that's her name. And she's the one that gets a text message that says, like, you stole something from me, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to come find you and kill you. Power broker. So I thought that they did steal super serum from Power Broker, but that's how they got their powers. So that happened earlier. That happened weeks ago, let's say.
Oh, okay.
And so they've now powered up so they can accomplish their mission. But their mission is to try to bring about the events of the blip, right? They want to do the snap on Earth. So they've got vaccines for the folks that they want to keep vaccinated, and then they're going to do a pandemic that will wipe out half the Earth and bring it back to the way that they liked it. They liked it when there was like, hey, because there's even that concept where they're like, all these new rules and this stuff is all about the people who came back, and they didn't think about us at all. Screw them. So I don't know. I mean, obviously that's very dark, but I feel like maybe that's what I got out of it was Flag Smashers. That's their goal. We want to bring back the conditions around the blip. The way we do that, pandemic, vaccinate ourselves. Hey, look, we're back. Anyway, that was my thought. But you're right. Maybe it's serum disguised as vaccine.
That is interesting, though. The idea that perhaps they'll, Although I wonder how they would, I guess if they thought, okay, we're gonna try to kill half the world, then and not think about killing the ones that came back.
Well, keep in mind another important point is that Carly says after tomorrow there's no going back, suggesting something big. They're about to do something huge in 24 hours that they can't come back from.
Okay.
Which also suggested to me like we're going to release the pathogen or whatever. Maybe.
We'll see.
But yeah, so there's a ticking clock right now. There's a day until something huge that the Flag Smashers are planning happens. I thought that Sam, having watched the video of the Flag Smashers being all superpowered, was going to go to Bucky to be like, hey, this looks like Winter Soldier, folks. Instead, Bucky sees the new Cap on TV, and he goes and finds Sam to reprimand him for giving up the shield. That was interesting.
Yes.
He kind of just walked onto a military base, but I guess He's Winter Soldier. He could do that. And so from there, they go investigate a warehouse where these vaccines were. They track it. There's a big fight on these trucks. It goes poorly. The new Cap and Hoskins show up, try to help. It goes badly for them too. Yeah, Battlestar. That's actually the funniest moment I thought in this episode was when they're all riding in the truck. They don't get along anyway, and then they're like, "What do you call it?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm Battlestar," and Bucky's like, "Stop the truck! I'm out." He just leaves. Yes. They're like, "Nope." It is a dumb name unless it's followed by Galactica.
That saves it. I see.
I'm Battlestar. What?
You're aware of the history behind that, right?
Kind of. I mean, I know he's called Battlestar in the comics, and he also was he called himself Bucky or something at one point. But
there were a number of people who were Bucky after.
But why is he called Battlestar? What is that?
So there were a number of people, and he was at one point they were like, "Oh, we got a couple of people we could choose. Let's make him a Bucky." But once they did, people were like, it's bad to call black people Buck, and Bucky is not that different. So they were like, "Oh, you're right. We need another name," and they came up with Battlestar.
I'm just like, does he have the power of a star? Does he?
Yeah, that's just a name they came up with.
Yeah, it's a bad name. But okay, I'm in Bucky's camp here. Stop the truck. We're out. You just go by Hoskins. That's better. That's when Bucky says, "Hey, you know what, Sam? I think I should show you something. There are other people with superpowers. It wasn't all just a small group of folks." And so that's why we end up going to Baltimore to meet up with Isaiah Bradley.
Yeah.
On the streets. As they're walking he gets called Black Falcon. Because I'm black and I'm named the Falcon.
Yeah.
He also calls Bucky White Panther, and he corrects him as I'm the White Wolf.
Yes. And apparently there was someone else who was White Wolf. So in a way, they just passed that name along to him when he was there.
That's a callback to another. Not Lord of the Rings, but another cool fantasy series I like, the Elric saga, where the main character in that one, Elric, known as the White Wolf. So then, as they walk out of Isaiah Bradley's house, they get into an argument, and we see the cops come up, and even though Bucky is actually wanted. They side with Bucky in this moment, and they're like, "Oh, you're Falcon. Oh, I didn't see him without the man." Anyway, so Bucky gets taken in because he didn't do his therapy, and so he ends up taking it. The therapy works in that it's an excuse for them to be honest with each other, and that works within the show. It's a little contrived that they were in there to get, but so be it. I'm fine with it.
Oh, you mean that they pulled them both in there? Yes. Yeah. Yes, they could have, did a little more to be like, to make it rational that Sam Wilson would go in there, but
right. But once they were there and they did the thing, then we did get this moment of truth, which is Bucky is angry at Sam because Sam, by turning down the mantle of Captain America, it suggests that Cap was wrong about Sam when he said, "You're ready," and that also then might mean that Steve was wrong about Bucky being a good person. And so it's like, hey, if he was wrong about you, then maybe I am a bad person, and I need to be redeemable in my own eyes. So take up the shield, damn it. And so we get that moment of truth. They then leave. Walker has smoothed things over. Apparently, Bucky doesn't need any more therapy now, thanks to John Walker's like, I cleared it. You're fine now. Everything's like he smooths the way for Bucky to not have any more restrictions on him.
Right.
With the idea that they're going to join forces, and obviously, Sam's like, look, you guys you're under a different code. We're freelancers, so we can do what we want. And so I think it's better if we work separately. And then that's when we get probably the most ominous note from our new Captain America. Was like, all right, well, just don't get in my way or something like that. And then we get the Zemo ending.
At least he's not asshole enough to rescind Bucky's freedom from,
that's a good point. He's
therapy.
He really is coming off as not a bad guy. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he fails. Like, what is his failing? He's obviously not Captain America material, as we're gonna find out somehow. But how is that? Here's a thought of mine. Let's say he fails in some way. I mentioned maybe he compromises himself in order to get the super serum. But however it happens, they did throw in the thing of like, hey, did you ever throw yourself on a grenade? And he's like, yeah, I've done it 4 times. I know how to do it with the helmet and blah, 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 blah. Maybe he goes... I'm on the verge of madding him for this season. And I think maybe while he's kind of... He proves himself to be unheroic, let's say in episodes 4 and 5 or something. He then sacrifices himself to save, let's say, Falcon and Bucky at the end. Maybe not a grenade per se, but something like that, where he ends up dying, and it's kind of in some ways like, I did the Captain America thing, I did my, but anyway, but he dies out. So
I guess we only have 4 episodes left, so it does perhaps encourage you to be bolder in your predictions.
Correct. So anyway, I'm pseudo
I wouldn't
madding.
like that if that happens, but we'll see.
Walker. Anyway.
Interesting.
So this brings up a good point, though, and I was thinking about this last week and forgot to bring it up. What does the world think happened to Steve Rogers in the MCU? So we know what happened. He survived the fight.
Well, we know some of what happened.
True. Good point.
We don't know what happened to him after.
But he showed up to give Falcon the shield. He might still be... He either Pym-particled himself away again, or to an alternate reality or something, or he's still there as old man Steve Rogers in hiding.
Right.
But, what does the world... For instance, how does the world think Sam got the shield?
Well, what do you mean?
Like, in other words, we know that he got the shield because Captain America gave it to him after he time traveled and returned all the gems.
Right.
The world doesn't know that.
I feel like they can just. I don't know. I feel like it's interesting to me the difference between what everyone knows about all these characters, and they haven't seen the movies, right? So. Do
they think he's dead, for instance? Do they think Captain America's dead?
To me, though, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think they think he's dead, but I'm curious about what he actually is. Because people
in other words,
are
is he alive,
imagining that he might,
world?
that he might show up in this series, and I don't think we're going to get him.
Nah, I don't think it. I don't think it's happening. But just. Is he alive living here, or is he alive living in?
Because
an alternate
in
reality?
terms of what the people believe, I'm not sure. He decided not to be. They might think he's dead. Who knows?
I think it just impacts. How Falcon takes the shield or doesn't, or like how the world perceives. Obviously they're like, Cap is back, so they think Captain is gone.
Right.
However, whatever that means. So anyway.
Yeah.
Interestingly, this is just a little side note, but I suddenly realized it was kind of... as a kid, I didn't read a ton of comics. I had comics, usually traded them with my friends, or if I was at like the grocery store with my parents, and I just picked out the one with the coolest cover, and then I'd grab it. And so I never read like a complete series. It was always like one of this one of that one. So in that vein, I had two comics that were also records. So it was like a comic strip you could read along, but then it also did like an audio play of the comic strip. So you could read along and listen to it at the same time. One of them was Spider-Man and Draco was a thing. But then the other one is more relevant to this. It was Captain America and Falcon versus a character called the Phoenix. And what you learn from it is Phoenix is Heinrich Zemo's son. So it's the Zemo that's in the MCU show right now. Except he was calling himself the Phoenix, and he was dressed in this big, garish yellow-red costume thing. Well, there were a couple of funny things about it. One was that his trap to get Steve to capture Captain America, and it works, is that he creates this big mannequin of himself, and then he has it facing like an alleyway wall, and when Steve goes and hits him, the head falls off and the gas pours out of his neck, and it knocks Steve out. You're like, really? You went through all that trouble to make a convincing model of yourself filled with gas, hoping that Steve would come and knock his head off, and then the gas... Anyway, but it works. He knows how to get Captain America. But the other thing is, we learn a little bit about his backstory, which is kind of confusing. It's like, he's angry at Captain America, and you would think the reason he'd be mad at him was like, you killed my dad, or something like that. But no, it's not that simple. So Heinrich Zemo was working for the Nazis, of course, as you do. And he created super glue. It was like Adhesive X. It's so strong that it bonds to anything forever. You're like, oh, that actually sounds kind of useful. It's not evil necessarily. But anyway, he gets in a fight with Captain America. Captain America knocks Adhesive X on his face, and it makes his mask stick to his face forever. So his mask becomes and so that drives him crazy, and he turns away from his mother or from his wife and kid, and so little Zemo blames Captain America for driving his dad crazy, I guess. And it was kind of like, well, okay, you had to connect some dots there, but okay, so whatever. But anyway, so it was just interesting that one of the few comics that I was really acquainted with happens to be kind of relevant here, because Falcon ends up saving Captain America with Red Wing. Red Wing in this one gets snapped in half by the Flag Smashers. But anyway, there you go. Maybe we'll see, if we see Zemo next episode standing against a wall, don't buy it. It's not the actual Zemo. He's filled with toxic fumes. They're going to Zemo. We're not sure how they're going to literally break him out of prison. That seems like a huge step to take for somebody who you just don't even know how he's going to react. I mean, I don't know that Bucky, certainly Falcon is not 100% sure that Zemo won't just recite a few words and turn Bucky into Winter Soldier and have him go kill everybody. So for him to be like, let's break him out and let's see what happens. Like, whoa, okay. Yeah. So I don't know how that's going to play out.
Sam has already expressed, given the caution of, hey, let's not do something to make ourselves on the run, basically. He's already expressed that.
Yeah, good point. But we also know that the government was tracking Sam through Red Wing, maybe. Like they were like,
they said that, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course,
it's government property.
It's been destroyed, so I don't know if he's going to get a new Red Wing.
Right. You would think, but yeah. Are we going to see Isaiah? I assume we're going to see Isaiah again in the next 4 episodes. Yeah. You don't just set him up and then leave, right?
I think so. I mean, there certainly, I've heard people guessing that we're going to see that event where Isaiah.
Oh, flashback.
Yeah.
Isaiah versus Bucky.
Yeah.
The head writer mentioned something about how, hey, in episode 5, there's this grounded character that I was going to introduce. Boy, I'd really love to see that character paired with somebody like Thor or somebody. I don't know what that means. I don't want to play like the WandaVision game where you're like, maybe it's Boner 2.
Mephisto!
It's Mephisto. No, but anyway, so there's some character, a grounded character that's going to be, I guess, new to us, introduced in episode 5, that the head writer apparently has an affinity for. Just whatever that means. We've got the Flag Smashers. We've got Power Broker. Flag Smashers stole something from Power Broker. We've got Zemo in jail, who's about to somehow get out of jail. And we've got our 2 sets of Captain Americas. Oh, that was another little, where Walker's trying to convince Falcon to, Sam to come on the side. And he's like, just like Captain America, I couldn't do it without my sidekick or something like that. It's always that last line.
Yeah.
Screw you.
It's always a line that makes you leave is really it. It's like, I didn't decide to stick around after that. I didn't.
Yeah. A little fist bump that Battlestar and Cap do. It's very like, yeah. Looking forward to episode 3.
Yes.
Come on back. We'll be talking
I
about
also
that.
wanted to call out the. I also quite enjoyed the 2021 version of Spangled Man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They had with theoretically the high school marching band was playing it.
Yes.
And yeah, it was a callback to the Captain America First Avenger. Yeah, that was cool.
Yes.
Me likey.
Yes.
So thank you, Paul, as always, good sir, and we'll be back talking about episode 3.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.